What's going on, folks? Welcome back to Bed Boys, your one-stop shop for all your energy drink reviews and performance talks. I'm Christian,
I'm Brian.
and we are the Bed Boys. And today we got another banger for you, as per usual. We got first off, I'm gonna kick it off. We got to go back to the classics. I feel like we gotta kick it off with the drinks, like we did in the olden days. I got nothing new, but I got a little spin on it. So I got a White Monster. I got a White Monster Classic. Sweating can fresh out the freezer, put it in there to chill for a little bit, and I'm gonna pour it in a Johnny Walker cup. Yeah, that caught you off guard. So
Should have had that last week.
no, yeah, for sure. Well, I didn't have it last week. That's why. So this past week. I went to a food festival here in DR. Not really my usual environment, but I was like, hey, fuck it. Let me go do something a little bit new. So had a bunch of food, and then our head AT down here, shout out Leroy if you're listening. He knows that I'm not really a big fan of drinking, but he did buy me a mocktail from the Johnny Walker. So it was basically just juice in a Johnny Walker cup. But the cup is sick. It's like gold. You got Johnny Walker there. Keep walking, Dominican style there, and it's gold. So I might as well crack this bad boy and pour it in there. So had a bunch of good food and got a free cup out of it.
A pimp cup, one might say.
It is a pimp cup, honestly. Like all my protein shakes from now on are going in here. Oh, look at that. Who needs a Johnny Walker?
Just absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So that's what I'm ripping today before we get going here.
I'm repping a little double header. Every once in a while, we kind of bring these out.
What do you mean by that?
I'm gonna start with the can, and I'm gonna finish with what's in the cup.
Oh,
My can, screaming cold can of Amino Energy.
oof.
The juicy grape flavor. So let me just get a little. It's a flatter, more mild kind of pop on that top. 5 grams of amino acids, which, in all honesty, it's neither here nor there. It's obviously it gives you some essential aminos. I think it's a little underdosed in terms of how much you get of each one, but it is 5 grams. There's electrolytes in there, and then 100 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources, which mainly comes from a teacrine. But like on their can, they do write anytime energy, essential amino energy, sparkling is energy plus hydration, a blend of 100 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources of energy plus amino acids and electrolytes for hydration. Enjoy anytime you need an energy boost, like an AM wake up, an afternoon pick me up, or a pre or post exercise. Live your active life with essential amine.o energy sparkling.
I love how they insinuate that you should basically be having one of those at all times.
All times. Yeah.
You know who's a big fan of those? My boss, Blaine Kinsley. He actually really likes the amino energies. And he did comment when I saw him last week in Chicago. He's like, what's the best energy drink from the expert? So I think he's hip with the bad boys. I put him on, I know he likes the amino, so I suggested that he get on the Bum energy train, I was like, hey, You like root beer? You should try the root beer from Bum.
Well, fun fact, another AZ man that I do love, Evan Lauder, works with me at Team Builder, big fan of amino energies. He put me on to some of these, which they're very light on the caffeine, but they're delicious. I mean, they're absolutely insane for flavor-wise. Like,
I really like the strawberry one.
I love the juicy, or like the cherry. They have like a cherry flavor, and I'm not a cherry guy. But my cup is a Caribou cold press.
Oh, Caribou coffee. That's a little different.
That's a Midwest brand, and this is why I'm gonna bring this up. I'm so fucking done with Dunkin', dude. I love Dunkin'. Dunkin's you worked with me for how long, man? Like, I love Dunkin'.
Yeah, you are a Dunkin' guy over at Starbucks for sure.
I had an order placed in the Dunkin' drive-thru and just left. I was
so long.
I waited in the line for 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm not doing this.
Holy shit.
Dunkin'
30
shtick.
Minutes?
Yes. Dunkin' shtick is
in Burlington, North Carolina.
Yeah. It's not like I'm in Boston. You know what I mean? Like, Dunkin' shtick is you're fast, and it's what keeps America going. Like, it's, in my opinion, it's objectively good iced coffee or like cold brew. But it just, like, every time I've gone to Dunkin',
going anywhere. You were
Yeah,
sitting in that line.
I was just sitting there and I got so frustrated. I just left. I was like, and I'm going over to Caribou. I pull into Caribou because we finally got one. And I'm like, oh, that's neat. So I go over there. I'm like, I'll take a shot over there and see if I can get over there. One car in the drive thru, I pull right in. Now, if anyone's listening in Burlington, North Carolina, do not blow up my spot. Because that's what happened with Dunkin'. We got a second
Yeah.
location and I went to that one and everyone blew it up.
Yeah, it's interesting because I know like my girlfriend works at Starbucks, so I get all the inside about like what it's like to essentially work at Starbucks, and like I feel like you go to Starbucks and the line's always packed versus like if you go to like what was the one I went to in what's the other chain? Dutch Bros. Where
Dutch
it's
Bros
just
is,
like a shack. There's
they
almost
never have
a
anybody.
line,
Yeah.
but it's still like good to me. I don't know. I'm not super like picky with coffee, but like
Or like Big B coffee is like never packed.
yeah,
That's a shout out Christian Hugh Baker. That's a Michigan brand. But it's like all these other ones that are popping up now, they have nobody there. And it's like, well, I'm just going to go to them. Plus, Dunkin' ruined its rewards program. It used to be if I go there 3 times, I could get basically a free breakfast sandwich and a free cold brew. Now it's like you got to go like 12 times
oh
to
fuck that.
get a free iced coffee, not even the cold brew. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, that's severe downgrade.
Yeah.
What is
like,
you're not a huge fan of Starbucks, like just the coffee itself? How do you rank them? Dunkin', Caribou, I don't know if you've had like Tim Hortons or Dutch Bros, like
okay.
because they're all like the similar
pretty close.
shtick. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, they're all like similar priced, I feel like. Although I do think Dutch Bros was like a little bit cheaper, or they gave you a little bit more when I went there.
They do give you a good sized drink.
I would
say
a pretty big one. No.
If I remove these if I remove the experiences from like the past couple of days trying to go to Dunkin', I would say like I would rank like Dunkin', then Caribou. I would probably go after Caribou. Krispy Kreme you don't really count, but I'm going to count them for this because I think they have good they have a good coffee, like and it's super cheap. So Krispy Kreme's up there, probably number 3. And then I would say
Einstein's in here? Or Einstein's right next to the Caribou usually.
So Einstein's actually uses Caribou coffee. So
that's right. Okay, I knew
you can get and then Caribou uses like Einstein bagels for their like bagel sandwiches. So it's kind of like one and the same. So Caribou Einstein's, which I mean that's almost a bump up for Caribou because that's awesome. And then Krispy Kreme, I'll say probably like I don't go to Dutch Bros much. I remember we used to have one by my apartment when I lived in Minnesota. I did like it. It's just it was always slow. So I think I'd have to put them below. So I'll probably go Starbucks, then Dutch Bros, and then Big B just because I just like never go to Big B.
I don't even know what the fuck that is.
It's
I'm
not
sure
bad.
I've seen one.
Yeah. It's just a big orange square with like a black B in the middle.
Okay.
It's not bad. I just never go to it because it's normally they always place them in the most fucking inconvenient spots. Like the one by us is you got to like you're turning in to go to Cali Burrito in this like there's only one way in and you can only turn right coming out of it, but then it's like this convoluted parking lot where there's a driveway halfway through in the middle that is laced off with cones and things, and you got to turn through and go through twice still in order to get out. I don't need a maze to get my coffee, man. I'm already in it days.
Right.
But Starbucks, objectively, I don't love their coffee. And because they burn the beans for a consistent taste, and it always just comes out a little bit
consistently bad.
Yeah. And like Starbucks is the reason I drink black coffee now, because you would tell them like, hey, I want a splash of cream, which when I say a splash, I'm like a little bit like,
yeah, like
that's a splash.
Tip it enough for some to come out, and like, yeah.
That is it. And they're like, you want you want leche con cafe?
Yeah, like you want a latte with like, yeah. You want a latte?
Do you want milk? Do you want milk that smells like coffee?
Yeah. Do you want some coffee with that milk?
Yeah. So I just don't like Starbucks, and their Starbucks food kind of sucks. Dunkin' used to have. I mean, Dunkin's got great food. I think Caribou Einstein, like that combo, is like unreal. A Krispy Kreme donut. I mean, what are we talking about, man? That's legit.
Yeah, for sure.
You're never not going to crush one of those.
For sure. Do you know what Scooter's coffee is? You ever heard of that? I don't know if that's like a thing out there.
No, but
Scooters.
Scooters I haven't heard of.
It's like a chain. I don't know if it started in Iowa or if that's the only place I know it from. Let me look this up.
Is that kind of like a Pete's coffee? Like Pete's is like really big out west.
It might be. It's like a let's see, Scooters. Scooters.
Oh,
Oh yeah, it started in Omaha, I think.
Omaha.
Yeah, let's see. Okay, they're in 29 states. Okay, yes, they probably were in Iowa pretty early on. Scooters, 800 stores across 29 states. Oh yeah, it's similar to Dutch Bros, and it's just a drive-through. So it's just a little coffee shack. You can't go.
I like
sit
that.
down.
I like that.
Yeah, because it says it's the second biggest drive-through coffee chain. So just like you can only do a drive-through besides Dutch Bros. So yeah, I would see them like pop up more and more in Iowa. Like they got pretty popular. I don't know if I've ever been there, but
There's one in
yeah,
like the Midwest too that's like called Collectivo. Have you ever seen one of those?
I don't think so.
They're like it's big around like southern Wisconsin near Milwaukee to like essentially that like little loop across Lake Michigan where
Okay.
it's like essentially like Milwaukee, Chicago, and then like the surrounding like small areas, and then kind of like encroaching towards like Indiana.
Hmm.
I
Look at this.
don't really like them
For Scooters.
unless they want to sponsor us. Then I love them.
Facts. That's always the caveat. But yeah, there's that. You're not a big local like coffee shop guy,
I
or are
am.
you?
I am. I'll say like shout out Salvation Coffee by us in Burlington. Love them. I used to, I think they're really good. They just don't have. Again, it's just a little bit inaccessible to like get out of the car, go in, and I'm not like I'm gonna go sit down and have a coffee in the shop. Our lives are our lives where everything's kind of on the go, so it's just a
Yeah.
little inconvenient to do that. I used to have this great one by me in Minneapolis or in St. Paul. It's actually right next to the St. Paul Saints Stadium, like kitty corner from it. Unreal cold brew, and they used to have the craziest like. Give me a good pastry, man. They used to have the craziest pastries. They had like a croissant that they would. While they made the croissant, they would like intertwine like ham and cheese like in the actual bread instead of it just being like a filling.
Hmm. Yeah, I like because I feel like right now, maybe if my schedule was not like it is, like I don't mind going to like do a little work at a coffee shop, but like you got to have. I mean, if you only worked for Team Builder and wanted to do that, you could probably do that, but like you also have another job. So
Yeah.
like in the off season when I don't have as much to do, I'll fucking rip a coffee shop. Or like especially when I like if I go on a little road trip, I kind of like to see the coffee shop scene, and it's also just
Hmm.
like if you're in it for the rewards, you're probably not going to find them there either.
No.
But I think people mostly go there for like the environment. Like I was just in Chicago and I went to this one local one, and like everyone's just in there like on their computers. Like you buy a coffee and you just do, I don't know, whatever you do like on your computer.
Yeah. Do those
So
work things.
yeah, do work.
Yeah, we used to have some really good ones by us. They had like it was like Spy House Coffee, Cafe Historia, all those ones. Like those were really good, but it's just like when I was in college, I would go to a lot of those because it's like you could do some studying and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
now I'm like, like I don't have 30 minutes to dedicate to like going out to making that the whole thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No.
but so you did talk to your boss about Bum Energy. Because we have some
I
news on
did.
Bum Energy. We have some
That's
news on
right.
Bum Energy.
That's right. Shout out Blaine Kinsley before we forget. He's aware of the podcast, so I appreciate you for that. I did recommend him some drinks. He asked me what's the best energy drink. I said, well, it's not that simple. What are you trying to do? And he's like, I'm just trying to be locked in. I'm like, well, I know you like the amino energies. I think you'll like the bum energy. But if you just want to get like zooted, you should have a Reign. He's like, oh yeah, I like Reigns. So man's aware. Man, he's dialed.
He's dialed
But
in
anyway,
on that.
We've been waiting for this, and now it's here. We've spoken into existence.
So we asked, and I can't say someone at Bum doesn't watch us, because every time we've talked about like a flavor that we would love or things that we'd like to see, for some reason, and I don't, maybe they're the FBI agents that watch the podcast and scan us, but Bum answers, man. We're getting a cream soda Bum Energy.
Hell yeah. Finally.
I mean, they've knocked it out of the park with almost every flavor. We've talked about a root beer flavor. All of a sudden, root beer came out. We've talked about an Arnold Palmer flavor. They knocked it out of the park with the Arnold Palmer in a non-carbonated version that was just insanely stellar. And now we've like, the only thing that we had been like really talking about was like a cream soda or like a sarsaparilla kind of flavor. We even talked about a Dr. Pepper and got a Dr. Pepper flavor. Now it's a little bit more like Mr. Pibb. That's fine. But cream soda Bum Energy is going to be coming out. If they come out with a sarsaparilla or like a Mountain Dew Voltage flavor, I swear to God, they're listening to this podcast, and I'll die on that hill, and I could die happy.
Yeah. There's no way the cream soda isn't going to be fire, though. If it is, I'm going to be so disappointed. But the chances are slim.
I follow a couple other people who are avid energy drink people. I don't know if they're necessarily like, they're not like a podcaster for energy drinks like we are.
Sucks to suck.
But they are definitely like in on the industry. And when they went to the Olympia in Las Vegas, they were giving out samples and they said it was incredible. They said it, and I quote, "It may be the best tasting energy drink on the market."
Wow.
I mean, that's a big like,
mess around with those words.
Yeah, like that's not something you just kind of toss around. You know what I mean? So super excited about that. Another one that's coming out is obviously the Mondelez deal with Ghost is done. So like they're going to replace the Sour Patch Kids Blue Raz with just their blue raspberry flavor, which supposedly is very close. They do have a suspected deal where they're going to bring sour strips in and replace some of those kind of flavors with sour strips flavors. So like the rainbow will be coming back, potentially like a watermelon, a cherry, lemonade kind of sour strips collab. So those are kind of cool. But they're also releasing their protein bars, which their protein bars are going to be packaged like a double bar, similar to like a Twix. Those look incredible. There's a cookie dough, a peanut butter chocolate flavor, and I think like a caramel kind of flavor. I just burped and it was nasty, but oh my gosh. Cookie dough, a chocolate caramel, and a chocolate peanut butter. So those are the flavorings that are supposed to be coming out for these protein bars. I believe that like they're going to be available via GNC online, and then I think as soon as they like start to see that the product takes off, they'll become more available more widely at like vitamin shops, likely a lot of places that are going to be where they have essentially the straight to consumer products. So not necessarily like tubs of protein, but more like available like energy drinks and like the on the go stuff, the OTG stuff. I could see them going into gas stations more regularly, like a Target, very similar to how you've seen like some of the like smaller tubs of Ghost Protein go into Target, things like that, which would be sick. Just make them more widely available. They're probably going to be fucking delicious, just like everything else they make. And then they're also coming out with 2 new flavors of their energy drink in cans. So we're expecting to see a strawberry lemonade, or a strawberry watermelon, as well as the original flavor. But so like that original like Red Bull, like Monster traditional energy drink where they usually have done it with like a mixer.
They're going to put that in a regular size can.
It's out in a regular size can, and it's widely released now alongside the raspberry cream, which is great.
Oh,
Got a great review from us. But they're gonna make an original pina colada.
oof.
So that sounds very, very tempting. I'm not a huge pina colada guy, but of course we're gonna review it. If I can get my hands on it, we'll bring it on the show. It'll be a guest of honor. We'll figure it out. But strawberry watermelon sounds incredible. It's something that like hasn't been done in a while, so that could be very, very cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah, that hasn't really been done. I'm trying to think. Sparkling Ice did the watermelon lemonade, but that's.
Yeah. So like
I
it
do
used to
like
be a big
strawberry
flavor.
watermelon though.
Yeah, and it used to be like a big flavor that a lot of things did, whether it be like a juice or just like some kind of can. Like you'll see it a lot of places outside of like the energy drink realm or even like the pop or soda realm. So to see it kind of infiltrate in there will be really cool because obviously, like, we're not going to not want a new flavor of Ghost Energy, just like we're not going to not want a flavor of Bum Energy that we got to find a new one that we got to ask for because they like
Yeah, what else do I want?
Mountain Dew Voltage.
Exactly. Yeah, it would be a shame if they made a Mountain Dew voltage flavor.
It'd be so terrible if they just if they knocked it out of the park and did another great flavor. Oh
Yeah.
no, I'd hate that. Uh but yeah, so like we got a lot of cool things coming out in the energy drink space. Pretty exciting. I think Monster's doing another flavor as well. Monster is coming out with like an electric blue flavor,
Yep.
which I think is going to be
Not
more
sure
like a
what
blue
that's gonna
raz.
be. Okay.
I
Blue
think I
Raz.
think I think it's going to be like a blue raz lemonade,
Okay.
which again, I ain't bitching. That sounds incredible.
What was the other? There was a couple, like, I feel like that post you sent me had like 3 different brands doing like a cream soda spinoff. Was it Mountain Dew or something like that?
Mountain Dew is going to
Mountain
have
Dew,
a dirty,
zero sugar.
a
Oh, is that
zero
like a,
sugar, dirty cream soda. Yeah.
so that's like an alcoholic drink?
Um.
The dirty,
So
is that the dirty? Like,
what I believe it's going to be
I'm so out of the loop.
like a Mountain Dew with cream flavoring. So it'll be like that citrus with cream flavor is what I'm
Oh,
assuming.
because I know that, don't they have Mountain Dew like seltzers now? Did I make
Yeah,
that up?
those are great. Those are great, my friend. Um, and then Mug Root Beer is gonna do
Bro,
a
throw it
vanilla
back.
howler float.
Bro,
Whoa,
bring that.
whoa! You're trying to throw it back right now?
This is a little. Man, I've been sus these last couple weeks.
Yeah,
I gotta,
you've had some wild ones.
I gotta get it together, man. But throwback, dude. Mug root beer. It
Mug
was
Root
mug root
Beer.
beer and what was it?
Barks.
Bargs. That's goddamn right. Mug root beer and bark. That's like throw up. I almost said it again.
Bring it back.
Let's bring it back to the days of Chuck E. Cheese and
Jack's Pizza and a Mug Root Beer at home was
yes,
great when you were a kid.
yep.
A
Sleep over
$3
at your
Jack's Pizza.
friends. Yeah, Jack's Pizza.
Ketchup,
Man,
cardboard, and like fake cheese.
exactly. And I loved every bit of it. Dude,
What's your
what's funny?
what's up?
My dad just will send me these random news stories via text, and one of them was the guy dressed as Chuck E. Cheese getting arrested in Chuck E. Cheese for I don't know I mean if that's what you do for work I don't know. You're probably doing some suspicious things in your free time. I think it was
Yeah.
he was some sort of felon, but they
Oh God.
arrested him right in the Chuck E. Cheese.
Chuck E. Cheese is moving weight.
Yeah, exactly. I just wake up on a Tuesday morning to a text from my dad that's like that.
What's your opinion? Because I don't know if you've seen it. Your girlfriend works at Starbucks,
Yep.
helping putting herself through school. What's your take on Starbucks having a high protein creamer that they're gonna put in the coffees, or in that same realm, Burger King's got the protein milkshakes with 20 grams of protein that's coming out. What do you think on those?
I don't know. I asked her. Well, she actually told me about that, and she was like, because I think originally they had a banana one, and she was like, "Yeah, that one tastes terrible." but because it's like a creamer, right? Almost, or are they like
Yeah, it's like
it's like a foam?
almost like a cold foam that's got protein in it that obviously acts as a creamer.
Yeah, I think if you're not into black coffee, which a lot of people aren't,
Mm-hmm.
if you can make it like a protein based for like the so-called creamer, that's going to look way better on the macros. And if you can get it to taste good, why not? Like, I love a good old, core core protein shake mixed with a coffee, make a little mocha. I'm all in on
Mm-hmm.
that, as opposed to just putting a bunch of sugary syrup in there. I think it tastes just as good, and you get some protein in there. I mean, it's like anything else. Like they're gonna try it, and it'll probably. I don't think it'll probably stay forever. It'll probably be like a seasonal thing. That's just not like it's not like the specialty of like those types of places. Like you're a fast food joint. Like you're not gonna like you sell Oreo milkshakes, you sell
Yeah.
Hershey bar milkshakes. Like you're not gonna. I think it's cool. Like it'll. I don't know. I look at it like that, and I don't know what it's like inside the boardroom of those places by any means, but they probably have so much money that like those are some type of things you can afford to like. Oh, let's go
Throw
out on a
in.
limb. Yeah, like let's go out on a limb on this and see what it does. And I think for Starbucks, there's probably a little bit like more of a market there potentially, but I don't know. It's weird because like Starbucks is like their coffee. Like I feel like they've never really gotten the food thing down. Like you go there and you might get food, but you're not going there just for food. Like you're not
Yeah.
going there like, oh, like I'm gonna go to Einstein's because I want a bagel sandwich. You're not going like, oh, I'm gonna go to Starbucks because I want, you're going there for coffee, and then you're like, oh, like I might as well get food here. So
Yeah, there it's always like what kind, when they like when you pull into the drive-through, they're like, "What can I get started for food to you?" It's like,
uh,
"Well, I'm here for a coffee."
yeah, you're like, well, nothing. Drive away. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Um, this is my thing. It's like, hold on, sorry, I'm sending a text message on something.
Is it about Chuck E. Cheese?
Um, so the big thing with it is like I don't think they need to be combined. I don't. Like I like my coffee to be my coffee. Obviously, I'm a black coffee drinker. I don't need it to be something insane. So I just don't I'm not big on it. I see the point, and Starbucks like has like you said they kind of have more of a case for it, mainly from the effect of like they've gotten a bad rap of like high sugar, high calorie like drinks, where it's like they can try to like say like, oh no, we're trying to promote like the high protein, the like health piece, so you can order that instead. Um, I don't think those people who are ordering those high cal ones are going to be switching. So
No.
it's just I don't know if it's as they're deeper on like customer behavior than what it's going to be in the effect of like them trying to switch that over. I think it does try. I think it may potentially break into a new market because you're going to get some people who try it. But if it's not good, they're not going to try it again, and they're probably going to tell people that. Burger King, I just don't know. Like you sell
You're just
fast food
throwing shit at
burgers
a wall and
that,
hoping it sticks.
yeah, like you sell milkshakes with Oreos, like you said. You sell French fries, onion rings, and this. Like, I don't think people who are going to Burger King are like, man, 20 grams in a milkshake sounds awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're buying any of that food because of the macros. They're just like, man, Burger King sounds good. I want some zesty sauce.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that too. Like, if I'm paying like $6 or $7 for a coffee, like, fuck it, let's just make it unhealthy. Like, make it taste good at least.
Mm-hmm.
Don't try to ruin it to make it a little bit more healthy. I don't know. I'm not looking for like a major protein source when I'm going to Starbucks. I'm probably just wanting some caffeine for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. It's but we'll see. I know Star. Have you tried the Starbucks? Like they did an energy drink, right? Like an actual canned energy drink.
Not great.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I don't even.
Not.
I don't even have like an inclination to try it. To be honest with you.
The flavors weren't even like they had like a blueberry lemonade, which I think was like the one I tried, and it was, eh, you know. Let me find this here, and let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
No, I can't actually.
Everyone can see my screen, right? Screen. Let's go here. Let's move on to that.
All right.
Yeah, so it had these like refreshers, these refresher energies.
See, that just
160
doesn't.
milligrams of caffeine. Like,
I don't like. I look at that. I don't know if it's because I just see the Starbucks logo and I'm like, no, you don't. That's not your wheelhouse. Or it's
you
like
can
somehow I
definitely.
look at it and I'm like, there's no way that's better. Like it's kind of I don't know. There's no way that's better than companies who only do the energy drink thing. You know what I'm saying?
And that's my thing. I think like the bright colors, the Starbucks logo, I think they tried to like kind of go after like the Alani New market, that kind of
Yeah.
deal. But it's very, I mean, 160 milligrams is not a high dosage where like, and then the hydration and they said like mental clarity. I'd have to see like what a label looks like on it to tell you if it's going to be actual mental clarity or like that kind of stuff or the hydration aspect. Like, okay, you can put like 3 micrograms of magnesium in there and say you have electrolytes, but like,
Right.
is that going to do anything? That kind of deal. I just don't know if like you said, this isn't your wheelhouse. This isn't your thing. Like you're jumping in it because you see that energy drinks are taking off and they are a direct competitor to coffee, right?
Well, I don't know who's like going into Starbucks and like someone who normally orders a coffee or a tea, they're gonna see
Is going to
that and
grab
gonna,
that.
yeah, they're not gonna swap that out. And like no one, someone like me or you isn't gonna go into Starbucks just to get one of those.
Yeah.
And I don't think
Um,
people are even gonna like pick that up at a gas station. Like you're better off Starbucks. You're better off just like making your own energy drink brand, not having it like logo should have nothing to
branded.
do with yeah, like not. You should just make another energy drink brand, not have it like associated with actual Starbucks, and you'd probably be better off that way. To be
Yeah. And
honest,
it's like you already have your canned like mochas and
exactly.
stuff. Like that was kind of your lane. And even these are
Hmm.
pretty terrible.
Yeah,
Um,
compared to like the actual coffee. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like the only one of their canned drinks that actually was really good is they had like a cold brew.
The nitro cold brew.
Yeah, the nitro cold
Yep.
brew can.
That's the only canned one that I like of Starbucks. Really, they have like the just plain black one, and
Yep,
then they
this
have the
one.
one with yep, that one's I like that one, and then they have one with like a vanilla. Yep, those two to me are good.
Yeah, after that it's all terrible.
Yeah, it's shit.
And you can't even find like just the plain black flavor
No, you'll
anymore
rarely
cuz
find those. I only see them in
no.
airports.
Exactly. Like you go into like a gas station or like a convenience store now and you'll see like the vanilla sweet cream or maybe like their mocha like dark caramel flavor,
Yeah.
but you're not going to be able to find the unsweetened black, which I don't know. Maybe it's just me like I said. That's the only one I want. I don't like I
Hmm.
just want the plain. I don't need the foo like the extra frills. I just give me some caffeine without, 200 calories of milk in it, you know?
Hmm.
Um I just think they miss the bill a lot of times when it comes to that. That's just me.
Yeah. But I guess the margin for error is probably pretty large when you're that big of a company. So
At the
I would
same
probably do
time
the same
though,
thing. Yeah, at the same time, I don't know.
like Starbucks has been a little bit more in trouble and like over the last couple of years, like they've really seen like a lot of negative press for obviously their employees of what they, essentially how they treat their employees, how they pay their employees. They took so much flack when they started initiating the it's just going to ask you a couple of questions kind of deal and flipping the screen so you can tip an employee for typing in an you know black coffee like that kind
Dude,
of thing.
don't get me even started on this. I'm all out on tipping someone like at a fast food place. Someone that just punches in the order.
Exactly. Like,
Like
dude, that's
I am definitely for tipping for good service, like at a sit down restaurant. I'm not tipping just because you serve me. I'm tipping for like good, like I will tip more gladly if you provide like above expectation service, and then the opposite if like you just like forget about my table. And I think that's how it should be.
I think so. Like a good rule of thumb, and I can't remember who I took this from. Somebody had said it. But like if I order at a counter, I'm not tipping.
Exactly.
That's, like I approached the counter. All you did, like if you weren't there, I could have had the same exact order. I could have typed it in myself.
Right.
And that's a thing. Or like I remember reading too, like when you donate to a company, like you're not actually donating to like that cause. So it'd be like, do you want to round up for this or that? It's like they already paid that money and it was a tax write-off. They're trying to recoup the money so they can make it up backwards on the back end. So like you're just paying them for their already pre-made donation.
Yeah, fuck that.
So that stuff
you're just donating for a tax write-off.
Yeah, so like stuff like that just it bothers me.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying that Starbucks workers don't get paid enough, or they get paid enough, so I don't need to tip them. It's like that onus is on the $10 billion company who should just take a little bit less profits. But in the modern day age, like everyone's trying to look for growth and expansion, so they're like, well, what if we just push that off onto the customers?
And the thing is,
Scummy.
when you tip it,
scumbag behavior.
Exactly. When you tip at Starbucks, you may have had like you like the person that took your order. That money doesn't just go to them. They split the tips evenly. Like say, for a simple example, $200 in tips, and there's 4 people working. Everyone gets $50. Like they split those tips evenly, so it's not. You could have someone that was like a jerk to all the customers, and they're still going to get the same amount of tips as someone who like was actually like trying to provide a good service. So it's kind of that thing too. Like I think that's where I'm all about. It's so interesting too, because like the U.S. is like kind of in the minority when it comes to like being a culture of tipping. Like down here, that's not really it's not really a thing as much down here. Like tipping,
it's not really a thing outside of America.
Exactly, like it. And especially when you're expecting a tip for just punching something in, the worst to me is when they're like, they're all on the electronic tablets now, where you like just click whatever, 10%, 15%, 20% custom.
It starts at 30.
Yeah, or like now it starts at like 20. I can't even like go below that. I hate when they just like stand there and it's like, oh, I feel real good about like giving you a bad tip when you're staring into my fucking soul. Yeah,
just gonna ask you a couple of questions.
Yeah, it's like, oh, let me decide if I want to help you. Let me decide if you make rent this month or not. Like,
yeah, like you just feel the inherent pressure while they stare at you, like, or like at a drive-through. Like, instead of just handing them my credit card for them to just run at a drive-through, whether you're getting a coffee or whatever, when they pull this machine out and they bring it to your window, that like as soon as I see that come out, I'm like, they're gonna ask for a tip. That's what it is they wouldn't take the card because they can't initiate a tip. So they're asking you to tip in a drive-through. There's no like you're not waiting on me or anything like that. Like you essentially punch in the order, you turn the drink or the meal or whatever it is made, you're just giving it to me. Like I'm supposed to give you like the tip is essentially, at least originally intended purpose was that was it was astounding service. Like it's something extra for
above
you.
And beyond.
Then it became like you kind of always tip, which for the most part I'm gonna probably tip 20% if I'm sitting down somewhere, just because like that's just we know the shtick of like what it is now, and so you kind of feel bad like, oh, this person's probably making like the waiter's wage, not minimum wage, so you're supplementing the income, which sucks a little bit. At a small restaurant or like a local restaurant, then you're like, all right, it's not as bad because like payroll is or like labor cost is like the highest cost for like a regular restaurant. At a chain, I'm like, this sucks. Like you guys know that like they can pay you more.
Here's a tip. Work somewhere else.
Yeah. But it is what it is. It's just I can't stand that in like a drive-through or at a counter kind of restaurants. Like, what am I tipping you for? You looked at me, you said, what do you want? And I said, this is what I want. And you said, okay, here it is. Like that requires nothing else. What does your girlfriend think about that? Implicate
Um,
her.
I mean, I think
I,
I feel like most people are on the same page of like spreading. I get why they like spread the tips evenly between all the employees, but I also think that's kind of bogus. Um, excuse me. Um, I mean, Starbucks by any means isn't the highest paying job, but it's like it's not like the worst. Again, it's hard for me to compare when the minimum wage is like so much different in like Denver versus like Iowa. Iowa hasn't changed the freaking minimum wage for so long. They're just at the state, like the federal minimum, like $7.25 or whatever it is. I don't know. I don't think she thinks like the tipping, because I mean she has her own like issues with like, there's pros and cons about working at Starbucks, as you've said, and it's kind of from shit, I'm gonna getting my girlfriend fired from Starbucks, but I think it's more of like, I mean, it's nothing you haven't already said, like the way they sometimes go about corporate and like going about like treating the employees and versus like, okay, the customer's always right. There's obviously like you can see where that goes wrong. I mean, you work. I mean, you have a lot of experience in like, customer service and customer success. There's definitely a line towards,
this customer is not right.
yeah, like being like forgiving and like respectful and trying to meet the needs of the customer versus also like looking out for the people that are working for you. There has to be a give and take there. So
yeah,
I think there's obviously issues with that.
for sure. And with that being said, if you guys really love Bad Boys, it's just going to ask you a couple of questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, well, let's just add a little tip there.
You can select anything. I think there's like a YouTube like tipping thing that you can do. So it's just going to ask you guys a couple of questions. It's just going to ask you a couple of questions.
We need to make it so like you have to, before you can even like start the video, you have to select something. And we'll
you have to
put
pay
the bottom tier at 5%. Yeah, this is no longer free information.
Yeah, we won't even do percents. It's just going to be dollar amounts. It's like you can tip as small as $1, but you can tip as much as $1 million.
Yeah, as much as you want, really.
And ours is just going to be like, it'll just be 100 different buttons, but you have to input your credit card information first. So whichever one you click on, it automatically pulls. So there's not like a second guess confirmation.
I'm thinking like a spin the wheel type of deal.
Oh, that would be sick.
Can you imagine?
I would love that. A spin the wheel.
Yeah, that or like heads or tails. Heads or tails. Let me see if I give you a tip today or not.
Dude, a spin the wheel would be great, where it randomizes your tip on like one of our videos. Some unlucky person just gets 100 every time.
Yeah, it's like $1, $5, 20, 100. Your car, your house. It's like your actual belongings.
Your social security number is like a sliver.
You share your routing number.
We get to pull a randomized amount from our end.
Yeah.
And then there's like that like 0.01% chance where it's like you become a guest on the show for an episode.
Yeah, but that has to be super small. Much bigger chance of you like losing your life savings than that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Maybe we should do this.
Yeah, dude. This turned in from energy drink news to scheming how to pull a fucking Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme real quick. Just got out of hand quickly.
I guess with that being said, we're halfway through the show. Should we kind of spin to some serious topics here?
Yeah, should we actually try to
do something productive?
Yeah. Do you think there's people that only listen to this part of the show now?
I think there's like a certain
turn
extent.
It off when we get to the things that we think are like somewhat intelligent.
So what I said, I was like, sorry, I was texting. I got a message about like the clip from our last episode from somebody's like what the hell is going on in this episode?
Oh yeah, probably because freaking Alex was You got
It
one
was because
guy
I had
smoking a cigar, you with those crazy glasses, and then TK's just calling you a bitch. Like,
it was
yeah, that
literally
was a
that
crazy clip.
it was like from me like having the hood up with these on, and he's like, "What is going on with this?" And I was like, "Oh, just it thought it'd be fun."
Yeah, man, if I would have had that with the Johnny Walker Cup at that point, that would have been.
I would have loved to seen you like in your full Flava Flav, like the pimp cup. Like, let's get you a giant clock, your do rag
Yep.
on,
Goddamn right,
your C chain. Like that would have been
Yep.
great.
man.
Just a couple of knuckleheads.
Anyways, yeah. Anyways,
Now let's get into some serious topics.
yeah, man, we covered the energy drink news fairly well, I feel like.
I think so.
Yeah. Here's a topic I feel like is very everyone talks about it. I don't know if we've talked about it a whole lot though, and it kind of gets glossed over. And it's like a pretty big part of like health and performance in general. But it kind of gets like cloaked over in S&C spaces, mostly partly because of credentialing, partly because of just time and like that's not specifically our job, but like nutrition in the S&C space is I feel like it gets very overlooked, and it's interesting the way people look at it, because I think like anything that's difficult to understand, we like to make heuristics that are simplistic and can generally be used for a large amount of people and get you like fairly good results. But on the other end of that, like nutrition is very complex and complicated.
Customized.
Yeah, and like there's a lot going on. And I think it also kind of gets hairy too, because like when people rarely is an S&C coach going to also be a registered
nutritionist.
dietitian. Exactly. You might be a nutritionist, but
I,
you're
I
probably
think
not
I
going
was
to
to
be
say
an
like
RD.
I think it's even rare that there'll be a nutritionist, let alone an RD. Like the RD,
Exactly.
I think we maybe have. There might be honestly, there's probably like a handful in the entire industry, not even just in a professional or collegiate space, but just overall as a whole, like an RD. Whereas like they'll be able to give like some nutritional advice as a like certified nutritionist. And for those of you that don't know, there's a big difference between a certified nutritionist and an R like a registered dietitian.
Oh
One
yeah.
of those
Big
requires a
difference.
lot more schooling.
Yeah, they are not the same thing. And I think they kind of the thing with nutrition is a similar thing with exercise. Everyone has to eat and everyone has to move. So people think they can be an expert in like, oh, I eat, I look like this, I'm an expert, therefore I'm an expert. It's kind of the same thing with working out. Like, oh, like I work
this
out,
guy's
like
this guy's
I
kind of
learned how to get
jacked.
jacked. Yeah, like it's the same shit versus like, no, that's not the same thing. Like, I've heard like the RD like board exam is like one of the toughest. Like it's super tough because you have to learn all the chemistry, biochemistry behind it. You got to do like I think it's like 1,000-hour unpaid didactic.
Of essentially, yeah, it's like 1,000 hours of almost like an apprenticeship, right? Oh no, we may have lost Christian. Well, I'm gonna look it up. We have some time. Christian is frozen with this look on his face, and so um, registered dietitian hours requirement. So registered dietitian hours requirement is a supervised practice program of at least 1,000 hours to qualify to take the national examination, which you then have to pass. So you have to complete a bachelor's degree as well as a supervised practice program of at least 1,000 hours and then pass the national examination. While Christian kind of loads back in, we'll just kind of go into a deep dive of this real quick. Some states require a license to practice outside of that, and there are requirements for continuing education to maintain your credentials, very similar to the CSCS or the CPSS or the NSC or the CSCCA's like SCCC. So essentially supervised practice, education, national exam, and then state licensure, which would be states' requirements. individually. And then continuing education, you have to complete continued professional education credits every 5 years, which RDs require 75 credits, at least one of those credits focused in a specific area on ethics. Oh, so we have Christian back. I was just going over essentially the massive requirements for an RD. So it's at least 1,000 hours. And then that qualifies you to take the examination, which you then have to pass. And then every 5 years need 75 credits of continuing ed with at least one of those focused on ethics.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot, and I think it gets kind of glossed over as like, oh, like you just. It's not as simple as taking, I will say, like, knowing the scope of practice is very important. That's one thing, throughout my master's, I've had a good amount of classes on nutrition, and the big thing that they covered is like scope of practice. I think people kind of get a little leery of that when it comes to, they say, oh, I'm not an RD, I can't say shit about nutrition. And it's not that. It's more of like, the big one is when you're dealing with like medical conditions. That's really where the RD comes in to provide like that specialized advice. Someone with, diabetes, whether it's type 1 or type 2, someone with celiac disease, any medical condition that can be improved, altered with nutrition, that's where the RD can come in. And that's where, your nutritionist, that's kind of off limits to them.
Yeah.
But I think we kind of just do one. We have a lot on our plate, and we're like, oh, okay, good. I'm not an RD. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. But there's still a good amount of like guidance I think you can provide. Like whether you're a nutritionist or, just are fairly well self-educated in nutrition, you can give general recommendations. You can, tell someone, okay, what does your daily, dietary intake look like? Maybe I'll give you some suggestions of how to alter it a little bit. I think it's when it comes to that, like the medical side, that's where it gets, that's kind of out of your ballpark. So, but so often I feel like it just gets so overlooked, and partly it's because like how many schools have like a sports dietitian? It's really not that many, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Few and far between. And it's like you'll see the people who have, like, you're going to see it more likely at a P4 or maybe a group of 5 school in the NCAA versus like maybe a mid-major or even Division 2 for Division 3. Like they're likely not going to have that because of the funding. It's just not there. Or you'll see it at professional organizations who have a lot of their stuff kind of put together. NFL teams, MLB teams, NBA teams, they'll have dietitians as well as nutritionists. So like the nutritionists almost work as like the assistants to the dietitian, but the dietitian's going to be running the show in more of that like overarching like performance, where there might have like someone who's a director of high performance who oversees medical performance and then nutrition / dietitians in that aspect. But it's an expensive thing that people often forget about or kind of toss aside because they're like, well, everyone eats, they're just going to go eat. There's so much information, or let's give, it's also like the aspect of time where it's like, do you have one dietitian who's going to handle, say, 500 athletes? Or, do you have one dietitian, like for you guys and like your setup, you potentially have one dietitian who oversees everything and then maybe nutritionists at each affiliate or every little stop along the way where they can help implement the same practices that's prescribed by XYZ. And if they have to elevate, they can't. It's just it's a time expansive thing. And it's a very expensive thing too in that case.
Christian, sorry, I got some visitors. But no, even with us, we only have one at the big league level and then one down here. So like the strength coaches kind of fill in to be the nutritionists at like everywhere in between. So it's not like even with us, we're not having one at every single level.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, I don't know, but where do you think like the S&C coach kind of fits into all that, given like all the time constraints? and like the scope of practice?
I think that's a really, really loaded question. I think
It
it really
is.
depends on what level you're at. What's the qualifications of the strength coach? Like, are they do they have their PN1 for like a precision nutrition, like nutritionist certificate, where they can give at least some kind of basic overview? The CSCS doesn't necessarily confirm nor deny what we're qualified to give as far as advice, other than like rough macronutrient kind of like outlines or like better suggestions on something. But I don't think we're technically qualified to give like full nutritional advice based off of that. So the S&C, when it comes to it, like giving that advice is a very gray area. And what I would, and I think like as an S&C, like in that spot, like you have to be very weary of what you're suggesting and how you're suggesting it, and then fill in those blanks. Like it's always such a it depends. So it's just super tough to say like what our exact role would be. It depends on the level that you're at. I think it depends on what other resources you have and if you're overstepping somebody else or if you're just directing them in that path to get to that person. Um, I think the best thing for them will, like, what you can do is provide information. I think that's where like the S&C can play it safe, is like, here's basically how you can calculate your BMR or your basic metabolic rate. Here's a resource to help do that if you can't do it yourself. This is what it's like to find, high quality proteins, by definition, or complex carbs by definition, or simple sugars, or a HDL or low DL or LDL, like kind of fats, like good fats versus bad fats in that sense. Like give them that information and maybe not necessarily tell them here's what you should or should not be eating, but let them at least make informed decisions if you're in a position where you don't necessarily have a registered dietitian on staff or a nutritionist that can give you the assistance.
Yeah, I think it's that, and like also knowing the environment you're in. Like, for example, like knowing like what the dining halls are like at that school. Some are better
Mm-hmm.
than others, and like if you
Mm-hmm.
can, I mean, you've been in the dining halls at Elon. Like you kind of know like what they're working with. They're better than most versus like I know where you went to school and where I went to school. It was a little bit more on the lacking side potentially.
Tough.
So like, yeah, like you have to know like what they're working with on a daily basis, especially if you're in college. Um, at the end of the day, I think a lot of it's tough because it comes down to like behavior change and like
Mm-hmm.
you're with them in the weight room, but not the other whatever 22, 23 hours of the day. And you have to eat during that time. And there's a ton of stuff that goes into like influence that, whatever. That's where it gets tough. And that's where I think it gets a little bit out of the scope, so to say.
Mm-hmm. And it's like you ride a really fine line on what you should or should not say, and it's always better to err on the side of caution. Whereas like you don't want to get into a position where essentially something goes wrong and an athlete's like, well, they told me this, right? It's like now you've kind of like implicated yourself. You have to be able to back up as you need to kind of go forward.
Yep. Especially depending on the sport you're working with, like the
Mm-hmm.
male, female, whether it's a weight restriction sport, stuff like that. You really gotta be on your toes.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's like you don't want to get into a point where you're in a tough spot and now you're like, what's going on? You're sitting there kind of like in a little bit of fear. You don't want to be in that.
Yeah. Don't want to be fearing for your job because you told someone to eat more broccoli or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. You don't want to be in that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it's a like you said, it's a loaded question. I don't know if there's like a I guess that's why there's a distinction between S&C and like a dietitian because there's not really a great answer for the S&C guy to just take care of that. So that's
hmm
why we have those. but it also doesn't solve the problem when you don't have access to one, you know?
So it's not a problem I think that can be solved immediately. And it's not a problem I think that has an easy answer, which is unfortunate, but that's also the case of like our entire field where there's no easy answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, no direct answer for you on that one. So
Yeah.
sorry, I feel like that wasn't super helpful, but
Yeah. I guess I have one for you. It's a little bit on more of like a rehab case. And obviously, like nutrition diets are very honestly, like I think they're underutilized when it comes to rehab, because the body's looking for nutrients in that sense. But I guess it's like the precursor to that is like in that off season, like nobody obviously wants to see anyone go down. And we've talked about this, time and time again. I think we talk about it a little bit with TK, especially in like the last episode, but it's like, obviously you have to train, you got to train hard. How comfortable should you kind of be in being like, hey, if we get like a small soft tissue injury, like it's okay. Like we got to like find those points in that off season when it's not do or die. And if we get the soft tissue injury, we can rehab it, we can go forth, versus the effect of like, if we just keep it safe and keep everybody healthy, we'll be all right. Where do you kind of sit on that spectrum when it comes to like, like I said, like almost being okay that someone may get a small injury?
yeah, I think you have to be a little bit. You definitely have to be more aggressive in the off season. Obviously, it depends. I mean, that's a bad answer because we all fucking always we all fucking know that it depends. I don't think you just like if it's a hamstring, for example, and obviously need to be able to run, you can't just like, all right, like you're not going to change anything. I think if one part, but I don't think it should affect like other parts of training. I think it should just, I don't know. Where do you make the distinction between rehab and just training? To me, they're just the same things. They're just scaled
Yeah.
differently, and like it's kind of just graded exposure if you're dealing with like a soft tissue injury. I think you have to be less cautious because you're not having to prepare for an actual game. Say if it's like the off season, so you don't have to worry about like, okay, you may be fatigued. We need to recover for the next like training session, but you're not needing to like be fresh at the end of the week, or in baseball, be fresh every single day to play in a game. It's obviously like you can't just like change nothing, but I think, and this comes down a lot to also the relationship you have with your medical department and how they view things like that, because like if you're not like somewhat on the same page, you're just not going to be, they might think you need to be like super cautious versus they might think you need to be like super cautious versus you think you need to be pushing the needle because it's the off season. This is the only real time you have to train uninterrupted. I don't know. I think to me, the solution is rarely to like do nothing. Like the thing I get frustrated most when someone gets a little like, and I think we're talking like minor things like, okay, rolled an ankle. Obviously, like hamstrings can vary in their severity, but like stuff like that, I think rarely the best thing to do is just complete rest. I mean, even for someone who like you see someone have surgery, like they start physical therapy almost like right away. Rarely is complete rest the right answer, in my opinion. I think keeping the person moving, because you're, if anything, you're at least keeping some of like their conditioning up to date, like aerobically, and then you tell someone, okay, just rest. Okay, now my ankle feels better after 3 days or whatever, but now I go back into like somewhat of a normal day of training and I'm blown up because I didn't do anything for 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how do you look at that? Because there's also athletes that like you are dealing with stuff the whole season. Like if you have something, you have a hamstring that's nagging, you may be dealing with that the whole season. The off season is that time to really like, okay, let's start over, address this, really try to get you back to quote unquote 100% versus, I think that's where you can go wrong with like, okay, now it's the off season. I don't care if you've had this nagging thing the whole season. Now is our time to really train hard because you've been dealing with that for a long time.
Yeah. Um, it's so tough because it's like you want to train them with enough of the things that will improve and move the needle. And then you kind of get into this like, well, maybe we just pushed it a little too far with this person, or even like just a freak accident in some cases where, something just didn't go right. And it's not necessarily something that was from a loading perspective. It's just, you know, in my sake for track and field, it's like you overstrided and you planted outside of your frame. Like those things are going to happen. And it's like really having to distinguish between the two of them of like, which is the cause, what is the underlying cause. I think when you kind of have to look at it in like the perspective of the team where it's like, what's the average person like handling the workload? What's the bottom tier in terms of, and I don't say like bottom tier like athletes, but like in terms of like those who are often injured or get them more often or whatever it might be. And I think like from a sport like me, where it's like the individual loading can be dialed in a little bit more, it's a little bit easier to like walk somebody back, say, hey, we're only going to do 3 reps of this, but we're going to have 5 reps on this week. Um, I'll tell you what, like from a coaching perspective, anytime somebody goes like down, you start to second guess absolutely everything. And that's a really tough spot to be in. Even if it is a freak accident, or even like now someone's telling you like, hey, I'm a little tender in this spot. It's like, did I just do too much? And it's like you have to know the individual of like, are they just hyper aware, or are they a more resilient person where they have a high threshold, high tolerance when it comes to pain? And you're like, okay, well now like if you're feeling it, what is somebody else feeling? And you kind of have to feel the other side too, where it's like the athlete who's always like just bulletproof, like, are they feeling it? You know? So like those interpersonal conversations are like super important, I think, on a daily basis to understand like the ins and outs of your programming, or even just testing it on yourself to where it's like, I know that like, maybe I'm fairly trained and this one beat me up a little bit. So like the next day it's like you have to like pull back adamantly, or whether it be on the speed, the volume, the intensity, whatever it is. Those are all like, I guess, like small components that go into the entire system that have to be like recognized and often thought about, because what you don't want to get into is, hey, we train hard and we're just okay with breaking people off. And I
Right.
think you'll lose touch with reality really quick if you become that coach. So you have to like feel the pain of like when somebody kind of does have an injury or a setback in some cases. And then it's like just modifying all of that. Um,
Yeah.
it's a tough thing, man.
Yeah. You bring up a good point of like being in tune with having actual conversations about how people are feeling and not, we talked about in the last episode how like people like to use technology to monitor readiness and how some can be more helpful than others. Like, I don't think that like a counter movement jump on a force plate is the best to like monitor someone's fatigue because it's just so far removed from the sporting action and you can kind of just grit through it versus like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, maybe if you have, I don't know, if someone is tracking their HRV, that's more of like an internal measure of readiness. Maybe that's a little bit better, but I think you have to be able to combine that with how they actually tell you they're feeling. And I think that's even more important, especially because it's more important not only because we both know how important relationships are in this field, but more often than not, you're gonna have just on average, you're probably gonna have less technology rather than more, especially in most settings. So you need to be able. You can't rely on technology all the time for that. And I'll say this: I think most of the time in the off season, when do the most amount of injuries come? Right at the beginning of the season, or like for football, it's in football camp. it's never usually taught people. What do people always say? They got hurt because they didn't do enough in the off season, or the buildup wasn't appropriate. They scaled up too quickly. It wasn't because it's rarely because you do too much
In the off season.
yeah, it's probably you did too much when you go from 8 hours to 20 hours,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not because you did too much in the off season. That's I can't
Yeah.
remember ever someone being like, "Oh, I got overtrained when I was training in the off season." It was mostly like, "Ah, shit, I didn't train enough, and now I'm not ready." And
And
that's
now
when
I'm
you're probably
spiking
more
my
likely.
workload.
Exactly, that's when you're more likely to get hurt.
Yeah. And it's just like, you'll sit there and you'll contemplate all these things and you'll kind of go through it as a coach, and you start to look at it. Now, I will say this, like the weight room is probably much safer than the actual sport itself, especially after being on both sides, just because like you have the chaos of sport. It's also inherently, it's probably more violent. Um, in the nature of not just like contact sports, but in the actions themselves, where in the weight room, it's a lot of like external loads that either you're yielding, you're expressing power through. So you're going to have all those things where it's not just constant back, forth, back, forth, back, forth, and then like athletes who compete, they're going to compete in the weight room, but when you're in there, it's a little bit easier. You can still get injured in the weight room by all means. I don't think like that's not what I'm saying. Um, but just by definition, it's a little bit here versus here. So you have to be able to like moderate that to where like if they're in the weight room and they're constantly getting injured in the weight room, you're probably so far above like the intensity of like the sporting action for maybe either too fast or far too long to where that either acute to chronic ratio is just massively spiked, or that chronic is so heavy and so much that that fatigue and that breakdown is just occurring over time. So you have to closely monitor that and like walk back. Like it can literally be as simple as like walking a setback or some intensity on something, or bringing a little bit of volume or cutting a set off, whatever it is. Um, and then it's obviously like, don't throw too much too new at the same time. Are you shocking the system, this and that? But it's one of those ones that I've been thinking about for like the past couple of weeks as we kind of like go towards like one of our like, honestly, one of our most intense training blocks, um as one of our most like volumescent ones. Like this is like the peak kind of in the off season where we can hit where we need to far enough away from competition, and we've loaded enough getting into this spot to have them physically prepared to do so. But even then, like after week one of like being in this kind of training block, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna walk back a little bit because maybe I was a little too aggressive. Um, just in the sense of like I rode the razor's edge, and I'm like, I think like we're kind of like on the verge of being a little too close on the other side as I'd like to be. So if I can just back off in some of the areas, like I think we'll rebalance and recenter where we need to, and be able to get a lot more out of it without having setbacks.
Yeah, and I think that's the good thing about the off season is you have that opportunity to be more aggressive and then be like, okay, I went a little too crazy. Let me pull back. Versus if you do
Mm-hmm.
that, in the middle of your season or like going up to like a conference championship for your case, like you probably want to be a little bit more cautious in that situation. But
Mm-hmm.
you can be cautious because you push the needle in the off season versus if you don't push the needle when you can, there's going to be like you're going to be behind when it comes to being careful. It's like, oh, like yeah, you're doing the right thing, but like you didn't get good when the getting was good when you should have been. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's obviously different for track and field because like running is such a big portion of. I mean, it is the sport itself, but I think
Mm-hmm.
for like a sport like football or like a lot of other sports, like what happens in early off season? December, January, the field work is minimalized by a pretty big extent, especially like that December, and it's mostly focused on the weight room. I think it's kind of that like whatever you want to call it, like restitution, regeneration, depending on what you want to call it. Like, yeah, you may be hammering it in the weight room, but compared to what you were doing in season, playing a whole football game or soccer match, it's going to be a different. You're probably going to have a lot of like muscular fatigue and soreness, but systemically, it's probably still going to be less because it's less taxing to the system overall. So
Yeah.
yeah, like everything, it's a nuanced thing, but I think, I just always think like you can't just be safe all the time and then think you're going to be in the best. You may never have an injury, but you may not know what level you could have been at if you really pushed the envelope when you could. You could probably play it safe all year and just like give people minimal effective dose, on the track. But if you don't, strategically overreach them a little bit at certain points of the year when you can afford to do so, you might be hurting when it comes to conference championship time when you're not running the times that you think you're capable of, if that makes sense.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
You got to get while the getting's good, folks.
Got to get after it while you can.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go one more topic, or you want to wrap this one up?
I do have something that I have to get to. It may be just on the other side of my door to another door in my house. I thought I had prepared for that, but
That's okay. We'll load these couple more that I got up for the next episode. Sorry, we got about 45 minutes of ranting and 30 minutes of education. That's a good ratio. I like that.
That's not a bad ratio for us.
Yeah.
Let's hear the Gold Johnny Walker Cup Monster review.
Yeah, it definitely
Does it taste
juices the
better?
review a little bit. I think it definitely tastes better, and I just feel like more of a pimp when I drink it. So if the OG Monster is like a 9.1 around, give or take, just gotta juice it to like a 9.3, 9.4. Noticeable difference, statistically significant. Would recommend if you ever want to go to
Love
the
it.
Bonao Food Fest in Santiago, DR. Get you one of the same exact cups.
Love it. I love it.
Well, guys, as always, appreciate you tuning into the show. Make sure you subscribe to the show, whether you're an Apple Podcast person or Spotify. There's a shit ton of podcasts out there. Some of them are pretty good. There's a lot of shitty ones, though. I'm not even going to hold back. I feel like we keep it real for the most part. We might not be everyone's cup of tea, but if you do enjoy the show, make sure to subscribe, leave a review. YouTube as well, subscribe if you want to watch the full video there. BevBoys.tv on Instagram for all past, future, present clips of the show, as well as our own personal Instagrams, French_fit40 for me. BevBoys clips, training clips, some travel pictures here and there. And then you can find Brian with much of the same thing at
BSZUTKWSKI, B Shakuski. I'm sorry.
Goddamn right. Yeah, BevBoys.com if you want to pick up a shirt or a hat. Get some exciting. The bucket hats are starting to come together here. I know we're getting to the cold months. Maybe we need to look at some beanies, but if you want to support the boys, pick up a shirt. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Appreciate you for watching. Peace.